My name is Alicia Sanchez Martinez, and this is my oral presentation for the subject Lexis and Word Formation. This oral presentation will be based on the word log, an activity that we have been doing in this subject since the beginning of the semester. The point of the word log was writing down new words that we heard, saw, or produced. In addition, we also had to write down where and when we came across these words and what we thought was their meaning at that moment. So this presentation is divided into different sections. The most relevant one is the analysis, where I've chosen and studied the 10 words from my word log that I considered more interesting in terms of morphology. In addition, I note when and where I came across these words and what I thought was their meaning when I first encountered them. And I contrast this supposed meaning with the actual meaning that they have. So finally, I classify each of the chosen words concerning the lexeme formation processes that were apparently used to create them. And another section would be the conclusion, in which I comment on the different word formation processes which prevailed in my tiny corpus, and I give some final thoughts as to these results. And of course, at the end, I also include a bibliography. What are the objectives of this research project? Well, what I want to do is to show the continuous work that I've been doing this term. And I also want to reflect, in a sense, how morphology is actually a part of our everyday lives. So this project, in other words, stresses how in our day-to-day life we can always find new words to study, which, if you ask me, is a quite exciting aspect of this branch of linguistics. So now we have the analysis. The first word that we have is babeness. So I came across this word on Facebook while I was at a friend's house on the 17th of March, when a friend of mine from the US used the word babeness with a hashtag as a caption for a selfie she uploaded. I had never heard this word before, but I thought that the meaning, as you can see, would be something like the quality of being a babe. Accordingly, babeness has been defined by the Oxford Reference Guide to English Morphology as the qualities that make somebody a babe. So now, regarding the lexeme formation process that has created this word, well, here a major lexeme formation process has occurred, which is named affixation. In this course, we have defined this process as the addition of derivational prefixes and or suffixes. And we have also learned that this is by far the most common process in production of English lexemes. So we have also learned throughout this course that the objective of word formation rules is to make explicit all of the information that speakers know, in terms of, for instance, categories or semantics. So in this case, the kind of root that an affix attaches to is relevant, and in the case of ness, as you can see, it attaches to adjectives or nouns, such as, for example, in the case of toughness or badness. And additionally, the information that the lexeme that has been created has is also important. And in the case of ness, it creates nouns meaning the quality of X, as you can see. So we have also learned that the word structure is an important aspect, as even if when we divide a complex word in morphemes, it looks like these morphemes go one after the other. This is not at all what actually happens. That is, the morphemes are always attached in some order, with the root or base being the innermost layer and each affix having its own layer. So here in this slide, we have a tree to represent this complex derived word, since this tool helps us represent the order of affixation. It is true that these types of trees are more interesting when several affixes are attached, but I do think that the word structure in this case is relevant too. So also, I have also included a table because, as far as we've learned in this course, Tables are commonly used for aspects related to the meaning of derivational affixes and their effects when getting attached to a particular word or base. So as we can see, the categories of the base and of the new lexeme are specified, and the meaning is also noted in the table. So therefore, this table allows us to see whether the meaning or the function changes. And as an example, I've used babeness, of course. And lastly, I also feel that the semantic category of the affix ness should be mentioned. So as you can see, this is an abstract affix because it denotes a quality. Okay, so now I will deal with the word wildfowl. I'm gonna have a drink of water. So I came across this word on YouTube on the 21st of March while I was at my house, because a video by the Wildfowl and Wetlands Trust appeared on my YouTube suggestions. I enjoy watching documentaries of animals and things like that, so I guess that maybe the cookies that YouTube uses caused this video to be suggested to me. So anyway, when I first saw this word, it called my attention because I didn't know what it meant. I knew that what wild meant for sure, but I wasn't sure about what fowl meant. I mean, I knew that it had something to do with animals, so I just thought that wildfowl meant something like wild animals, as you can see, a wild animal. However, the meaning according to the Cambridge English Dictionary is the following: birds that people shoot for sport, especially ones such as ducks that live near water. So in terms of the word formation processes, here compounding, which is a major lexeme formation process, has taken place. Also, compounds are defined like this: they are words that are composed of two or more bases, roots, or stems. Moreover, this compound is spelt in a solid way because there is no space and no hyphen. And furthermore, as is common with compounds, this word is stressed on the first base, and there is the possibility of inserting a modifier between the two bases, as in the case of a wild green fowl, as you can see here, which is ungrammatical. So moreover, here is the structure by using a word tree. And in terms of the traditional classification of compounds, this would be a root primary compound. This is because it is formed by two or more roots in which there are neither derived verbs nor their arguments. So in terms of a categorical classification, the category of the parts, as you can see on the slide, is adjective plus noun, and the category of the compound as a whole is noun. In addition, in terms of a semantic classification, this is an attributive compound because the non-head acts as a modifier of the head. So as you can see, wildfowl is a kind of fowl, which is wild. And lastly, in terms of the position of the head, this is a right-headed compound because the second or rightmost base controls the semantic and grammatical category of the compound, as you can see right here. Okay, so now I will deal with the word to pigeonhole. I came across this word while translating an article by Rich Cross called Vice Versa and Poison Girls, an Appreciation. And this happened on the 4th of May at a friend's flat. When I first read this word, I had no idea of what it meant. It came in the sentence that you can see after the name of the article. Subversa remained an outsider and resisted any attempts by others to pigeonhole and lock down her identity or persona. So from aspects like the context or the separate meanings of pigeon, which is an animal that is not liked by many as it is considered dirty, and hole, I knew that it meant something which was not exactly good. In fact, I imagined that it might have something to do with what you can see here, with enclosing somebody in a restricted category defined by uncleanliness. That is, I thought that this verb was like a compound made by pigeon and whole, and that these words were used in a metaphorical sense with some properties from a source, like, for example, understanding pigeons as dirty or holes being closed structures, were mapped to a target domain so that the target was understood in terms of the source. But anyway, as you can see, according to the Cambridge English Dictionary, in this context, this verb means to have an often unfair idea of what type someone or something is. And they specify that this is often disapprovingly. So after doing some research, I realized that the word formation process that has occurred in the creation of this verb is one of the major word formation processes that we have learned, and it is called conversion. In this course, we have defined conversion as shifting the category or part of speech of an already existing lexeme without adding an affix. So, in other words, what happens here is that one word belonging to a specific grammatical class is turned into another word which belongs to a different class, and no morphological markers are added in this process. So, words are basically recategorized in our mental lexicon. Additionally, I should also note that in class we have learned that this lexeme formation strategy is particularly productive in modern English, and that it has also been named functional shift. So, moreover, I discovered that the process that had taken place was conversion because I found that there is the noun pigeonhole, as you can see here, which means a particular group of similar things that people or things are put into in a disapproving way. So therefore, what happened here is that this noun was recategorized into a verb. And this is one of the most common types of conversion, as far as I'm concerned, since it is a noun to verb conversion. Moreover, that a noun to verb conversion has occurred is justified by the fact that to pigeonhole can be paraphrased as doing something that involves the meaning of the noun pigeonhole. That is, doing something that involves a particular group of similar things that people or things are put into in a disapproving way. So before finishing the analysis of this word, I think that it is also worth noting that the different word formation processes can interact in many different ways. And in this case, we have a conversion of a noun, which must have been formed by compounding first. That is, this noun seems like a compound of pigeon plus whole. And moreover, the meaning of this compound is certainly metaphorical in the sense in which I thought when I first came across this word. However, of course, in the formation of the verb conversion is what took place, as it has already been thoroughly explained. So now concerning BVD. This word came up while I was at my house on the 3rd of March reading The Member of the Wedding by Carson McCullers. This is the excerpt where it appeared. She wore a pair of blue track shorts, a BVD undervest, and she was barefooted. So, because of the context, I supposed that this was an adjective that defined a type of undervest. But I didn't know which type of adjective it was. I thought that maybe this adjective was an initialism, but I didn't know exactly what it meant. Anyway, after Googling this term, I learned that it meant the following. BVD is a brand of men's underwear. The term came to be used for any underwear in the style popularized by BVD, which you can see in the picture. So this adjective has been created by a minor process of lexeme formation, which is called coinage. This has been defined as the invention of totally new words. Moreover, here we have the most common source for the previous, which are invented trademarks for commercial products, which in this case are undervests. So the previous explains why I had no idea of what the adjective BVD meant, since these inventions are semantically opaque. That is, they do not give a clue to the meaning. In fact, this is why these new pure coinages frequently come from the names of products. This occurs because the connection of the lexeme with the product makes the meaning clear. However, since I had no idea of what the brand BVD was, I couldn't make out the meaning of this adjective. So now we have the word maskne. I actually happened upon this word on the 19th of February at my flat while Googling solutions to the little zits that I've been getting on my chin since the start of the pandemic, due to aspects like the wearing of a face mask, the lack of sunlight, or stress. So I'd never heard the word maskne before, but through the context and the linguistic appearance of this word, I discerned the meaning easily. As you can see, I imagined that it would be something like acne caused by wearing a face mask. Accordingly, the Collins Dictionary defines it as an outbreak of pustules on the face due to the frequent or prolonged wearing of a mask. So, this word comes to be by a minor lexeme formation process, which is a type of abbreviation, and which is called blending. Blending has been defined as a process of word formation in which parts of lexemes that are not themselves morphemes are combined to form a new lexeme. In short, blending could be said to usually combine the beginning of one of the bases to the end of the other base, or sometimes two beginnings are also combined. In addition, in contrast to the previous definition by Lieber, in class we have learned that even if most of the time the parts that are used are not themselves morphemes, sometimes we do find whole bases. As you can see, after all, maskne is an example of the previous. Mask is a lexeme itself, however, as usual, we have the ending of acne, ni. Now I will comment on this word, skinimalism. I think that it's quite curious how I came across this word because a few days after my Googling of maskne, Instagram Explorer suggested to me a reel of an influencer or something like that who spoke about a new trend called skinimalism. This happened on the 22nd of February and I was at a friend's house. Of course, I imagined that this suggestion was due to Google's use of cookies. That is, Google must have thought that skin issues were quite relevant in my life at the moment or something like that. So when I first saw this word, I didn't really know what it meant. In fact, I imagined that maybe it was the made-up name of some skin product brand, or that this word was formed as a product of affixation with the suffix ism used, therefore denoting some theory regarding the skin. However, the meaning of this word had little to do with my premonitions. According to Vogue, this word means the stripping back of or skincare and makeup routines in favor of a more minimalist approach. So, although the actual definition obviously has little to do with what I thought, I do think that it should be noted that the word does indeed point to a kind of theory on the skin, which is based upon minimalism. That is, I think that in the creation of the word, the fact that the suffix ism for a base x in many cases produces nouns that mean social, political, or religious beliefs, studies, or ways of behaving related to x is relevant, as the blending appears to play with the previous fact. But that's just an idea. Anyway, the lexeme formation process that has been used for this word is blending again. This example works in the exact same way as the previous, since this lexeme is formed by the blending of a whole base and a part of the other. The part which is chosen from the second base is the ending, as you can see on the slide. Okay, so now we have the word flexitarian. I came across this word on the 8th of April while I was at my house. I was chatting with a friend of mine who is now living in New York, and she sent me the meme, which you can see on the slide, regarding flexitarians and omnivores and stuff like that. So in terms of the word, I had never heard it before, but from aspects like the context or the form of this word, I recognized that it was made up by blending, flexible and vegetarian, thus meaning something like a person who usually follows a vegetarian diet while sometimes eating meat or fish. Accordingly, the Cambridge English Dictionary defines the word in a similar way: a person who eats mainly vegetarian food but eats meat occasionally. So once again, I believe that the word formation process that is relevant here is blending. Nevertheless, in this case, no whole bases are used, as in the case of maskne and skinimalism. This new word combines the beginning of a base to the ending of another base, as you can see, something which fully coincides with Lieber's definition. So now I will focus on the word queering. I came across this word on the 28th of April while working on my trabajo final de grado. This was when I was already finishing it and thinking of a title. So I thought of the following title, which you can see right here: Queering Carson McCullers' Freakish Bodies, the grotesque and the carnivalesque in the member of the wedding. Nevertheless, I figured that I didn't really know whether the word queering existed, as far as I knew for sure, queer is an adjective which in the context of my TFG would mean something like gendered and sexual identities which are out of the norm. Therefore, I thought that if the word queering existed, it must be the present participle of the verb to queer, which must be a product of conversion, and it must mean doing something that involves queer, as you can see on the slide. An example of this would be, for example, turning something queer, or in the case of my TFG, analyzing something while paying attention to the gaps in which queerness may arise. But again, I wasn't sure whether this word actually existed. So when I looked it up, I figured out that it, again in this context, that this word was defined in the following way. Queering comes from the shortened version of the phrase queer reading. So the meaning is definitely similar to the one I thought this word would have, but the word formation process that has occurred and the category of this word is definitely different, as queering is a noun that has been formed by blending. Once again, here we have a whole base and a part of a morpheme, as you can see. However, lastly, I would like to comment on the fact that while Googling this word, I did find some articles which understood it as a verb, which had the meaning concerning analyzing something from a queer lens. Therefore, I believe that maybe the process of conversion of the word queer may be taking place. Also, maybe this could be accelerated by the word queering, as due to the ing part of the morpheme reading. This ing looks like a suffix that would be added to a verb. So at first sight, queering certainly looks like a verb. So now we have the word a fake. I came across this word while speaking on the phone with a friend from the US on the 14th of April. We were speaking about politics and she said a fake something. I didn't know what it meant, but I didn't ask her because I imagined that it was some kind of internet slang, as you can see, that didn't really matter in terms of the core meaning of what she was saying. Even so, then I looked it up, and the meaning, according to the Cambridge English Dictionary, is as far as I know. And this is used when you believe that something is true, but you are not completely certain. Moreover, Cambridge stresses that this is a written abbreviation. However, if you Google this word, there are several suggestions like YouTube videos, as you can see in the picture, which suggest how to pronounce this word. Something which I think could mean that this word is starting to be used in oral language, as my friend used it. So this is an instance of a minor process of lexeme formation within the abbreviation processes. Specifically, this word is an acronym, as you can see on the slide, which is a type of abbreviation formed when the first letters of two or more words are combined in a way that produces consonant and vowel sequences of a new word. Acronyms are pronounced as new single words and never co-occur with determiners. And here you can see more or less how this word works. Okay, so now we have the word pike. I came across this word on the 16th of May while I was reading an article on the English edition of El País titled Spain Plans to Introduce Tolls on All State and Regional Highways. So this made me wonder what was the situation regarding the previous in other countries, so I started researching and I came across the word pike. Since I was Googling things about this topic and I already knew what turnpike meant, I already imagined that it meant the same thing as turnpike, that is, a toll gate. Accordingly, in the Cambridge English Dictionary, this word is defined as a turnpike. And it is also noted that this word is used informally in the US. So, what lexeme formation process has occurred here? This is a minor lexeme formation process, which is part of the processes which are connected to abbreviation, again. In this case, clipping has occurred. As you can see on the slide, clipping has been defined as a type of abbreviation whereby a new word is created by shortening, as clipping is literally cutting one or more syllables from already existing polysyllabic words. In addition, as is the case here, it is usually associated with an informal style. So here we have turnpike and pike. So, in conclusion, in this project I have presented and analyzed 10 words from my word log, the ones that I considered more relevant or more interesting morphologically. However, as it has already been explained, my word log was composed of more words. There were actually 18 words in total. So the 8 words that I haven't analyzed in this presentation are right here. And they are Bicon, U-Haul, Tomboyism, Corona Bebé, Razor Sharp, Plandemia, Infodemia, and Chini. So to conclude this project, as I have already noted, I am going to comment on all of the 18 words in general by using this pie chart that you can see over here. So by far the most productive lexeme formation process in my super limited and tiny corpus has been blending. And why could this be? I think that it has to do with blending being such a playful process in a sense. That is, I think that the playfulness inherent to these words might have made them call my attention more than other words. Moreover, we have also learned in this course how blending is quite alive in flexible languages as English, but it is also alive in other languages like Spanish. And I believe that this also has to do with it being the most frequent lexeme formation process in my corpus. So, moreover, as you can see, the processes involving clipping, acronym, coinage, affixation, and compounding have more or less the same percentage, which goes from 5.6 to 11.1. However, it is noteworthy that there have been no instances of initialisms or back formation. We have learned that initialisms are similar to acronyms, but in this case they are pronounced as a series of letters and they may co-occur with determiners. However, back formation comprises the creation of a new lexeme by the elimination of a supposed suffix from what seems like a derived word. So I think that the lack of initialisms may have been coincidental, but in the case of back formation, I believe that the lack of it is due to this process being quite difficult to trace, since one must know several aspects about the etymology of the word in question. And finally, this is the bibliography that I've used throughout the project.